Hey everyone, and welcome to Joyerica. Let me ask you a quick question. Are you constantly busy, always productive, with a to-do list that you absolutely crush? But at the end of the day, you still feel like something is missing, like you're not actually any happier? If that's you, you're not alone. For years, I was stuck on that same productivity treadmill, burning out while chasing a feeling of fulfillment that never seemed to arrive. That's why I am so incredibly excited to share this book with you today. This isn't your typical self-help book. This is The Gratitude Equation, a skeptic's guide to engineering a happier, more productive life by Ali Erikson. It's an evidence-based, scientific approach that treats gratitude not as a fluffy feeling, but as a powerful tool to literally rewire your brain. In the next few hours, you are going to get the entire unabridged audiobook for free right here. You're about to learn how a simple 5-minute habit can release chemicals like dopamine and serotonin, permanently raise your happiness baseline, and unlock a new level of motivation and creativity you never knew you had. This book was a game changer for me, and I know it will be for you too. So if you're ready to upgrade your mental operating system, grab your headphones, get comfortable, and let's dive into the full audiobook of The Gratitude Equation.
The Gratitude Equation, a skeptic's guide to engineering a happier, more productive life. Book summary. The back of the book blurb. Are you ticking off more tasks than ever, but feeling less fulfilled? I used to believe happiness was a simple equation. Productivity equals happiness. As a junior doctor obsessed with efficiency, my life was a color-coded masterpiece of optimization. But I was running on a hedonic treadmill to nowhere, doing more, but not feeling any better. I dismissed things like gratitude as unscientific, woo-woo nonsense. It was for people who collect crystals, not for evidence-based productivity nerds. But what if we've been looking at it all wrong? What if the secret to next-level productivity isn't a new app, but a 5-minute habit you've probably rolled your eyes at? In The Gratitude Equation, I treat appreciation like a science project. Forget affirmations and scented candles. This is a skeptic's guide to engineering a better life. I'll take you on a journey to upgrade your mental OS, discover how gratitude is a neurological workout that releases dopamine and serotonin, physically rewiring your brain to overcome its default negativity bias. Hack your happiness set point. Learn why lottery winners often end up no happier than before, and how you can use gratitude to permanently nudge your own baseline for joy upwards. Ignite the gratitude productivity flywheel. Uncover the surprising evidence-based link between appreciation and achievement, and learn how a positive mindset fuels creativity, resilience, and motivation. Master the 5-minute habit. Get a step-by-step, low-friction protocol that builds a bomb-proof habit, paying you compound interest in happiness and success for years to come. This isn't a book about pretending everything is perfect. It's an evidence-based, actionable guide for ambitious people who want to stop chasing happiness and start engineering it.
Part 1, The Reluctant Convert, My Journey into Gratitude. Chapter 1, The Productivity Paradox. More done, less happiness. All right, let's start with a confession. For the longest time, my calendar looked less like a schedule and more like a work of modern art. Every 15-minute block was a different color. Purple for deep work, green for content creation, a rather alarming shade of red for exam revision. I even had a light gray block scheduled at 8:45 p.m. every night labeled, "Worry about tomorrow's to-do list." I'm only half joking. If you've followed me for any length of time, you'll know I have a deep, and let's be honest, slightly nerdy affection for productivity. I love systems. I love frameworks. I love the feeling of smashing through a to-do list. In my mind, life was a video game, and the goal was to level up my efficiency score. I believed, with the unshakable certainty of a medical student who has memorized the Krebs cycle, that there was a direct, linear relationship between output and happiness. The equation looked something like this: more things done, plus more goals achieved equals more happiness. It seemed so beautifully logical, so clean, so engineerable. And for a while, it worked. Every new skill I learned, every exam I passed, every video I uploaded gave me a satisfying hit of dopamine. I was collecting achievements like Pokemon cards. I passed my medical school finals. Check. I became a junior doctor. Check. I started a YouTube channel and it actually took off. Double check. From the outside, I was the poster boy for productivity living. My systems were humming along, my output was high, and my color-coded calendar was a masterpiece of temporal organization. But on the inside, a strange and unwelcome feeling was starting to creep in. It was a sense of emptiness. It was the feeling you get after finishing a massive project or a series you've been binge watching. That quiet, hollow moment where you think, is that it? The problem was the finish line kept moving. Every time I achieved a goal, the initial buzz would fade faster than my motivation on a Monday morning. The goalpost would immediately shift to the next, bigger, more ambitious target. Get into medical school? Great! Now you have to pass your exams. Pass your exams? Fantastic! Now you have to survive being a junior doctor. Build a successful YouTube channel? Brilliant! Now you have to keep it growing or you're a failure. I was living on what psychologists call the hedonic treadmill. You might know it by its more common name, the relentless, soul-crushing pursuit of more. Think about it like this. You get a new iPhone. For the first few days, it's amazing. The camera is sharper, the screen is brighter, the battery actually lasts for a full day. You feel a genuine spike in happiness. But after a week or two, it's just your phone. The novelty wears off, it becomes your new baseline, and you're already subconsciously looking forward to the next model. I had put myself on a hedonic treadmill powered by my own ambition, and I was running at full speed, listening to a podcast at 2x speed while optimizing my running form, and yet I wasn't actually getting anywhere. I was just getting more tired. This is the great deception of productivity culture. It's the lie whispered to us by our own ambition and amplified by every inspirational quote on social media. That fulfillment is just one more achievement away. That if we just work a little harder, sleep a little less, and optimize a little more, we will finally unlock that next level of happiness. This is the productivity paradox. The relentless pursuit of efficiency and achievement often leads not to a greater sense of fulfillment, but to a state of chronic dissatisfaction and burnout. We become so focused on clearing our inbox that we forget to read the messages that truly matter. We're so obsessed with the destination that we don't even look out the window during the journey. I had engineered a life that was incredibly productive, but I had forgotten to engineer the joy. I was a master of doing, but a novice at being. It was a slow, dawning realization. It came in quiet moments, walking home from a long hospital shift, staring at my screen with a 1,000-yard stare, feeling a pang of envy for my friends who seemed to be able to just relax. They could watch a movie without feeling the nagging guilt that they should be doing something more productive. I knew something had to change. My equation was wrong. The system was flawed. There was a missing variable that no amount of time blocking or to-do list apps could account for. I had to figure out what it was, and that meant I had to venture into territory I had long dismissed as unscientific, fluffy, and a complete waste of time. I had to step off my productivity treadmill and wander into the weird and wonderful world of wellness. And trust me, for a skeptic like me, it was a very strange trip indeed.
Chapter 2. The Woo-Woo World of Wellness. A Skeptic's First Encounter. If you told my 25-year-old self, then a junior doctor drowning in hospital rotations and productivity hacks, that I would one day write a book about gratitude, I probably would have laughed. Politely, of course, because my mother raised me well. But on the inside, I'd be thinking, right. And next you'll tell me to align my chakras to improve my surgical knot-tying skills. Back then, my world was one of evidence-based medicine and randomized controlled trials. If you couldn't measure it, graph it, or publish it in a peer-reviewed journal, it might as well be magic. My heroes weren't spiritual gurus. They were people who invented clever spaced repetition algorithms and designed minimalist to-do list apps. My bedside table wasn't stacked with books on mindfulness. It was a precarious Jenga tower of medical textbooks and guides on how to pass exams. My life was governed by the simple, if slightly misguided, equation I introduced in the last chapter. Productivity equals happiness. I believed with the conviction of a religious zealot that if I could just optimize my time perfectly, if I could squeeze every last drop of efficiency out of every single minute, then I would finally arrive at a state of perpetual contentment. Spoiler alert, it didn't work. I was getting more done, but I wasn't getting any happier. I was a hamster on a very efficient, well-oiled, and ultimately pointless wheel. It was during this period of peak productivity-induced ennui that I had my first proper encounter with the world of wellness. And by encounter, I mean I was cornered at a friend's painfully curated dinner party. The host, a lovely chap named Julian, who used essential oils as a personality trait, had invited a life coach. Her name was Serafina, and she spoke exclusively in the font of an Instagram inspirational post. "I am just so grateful for the energy in this room," she announced to a group of us awkwardly clutching glasses of organic wine. "The universe has truly conspired to bring us together." My internal skeptic, who sounds a lot like a grumpy Professor Snape, immediately piped up. Or, Julian sent a WhatsApp. Serafina then asked us to go around the circle and share something we were grateful for. My mind went completely blank. Not because I had nothing to be thankful for. I had a good job, a loving family, a reasonably fast internet connection, but because the request felt so forced. It felt like being asked to produce a urine sample on demand. It was awkward and deeply unnatural. I mumbled something about being grateful for coffee, which earned a few pitying nods. Someone else was grateful for the vibrational frequency of quinoa. I swear that's a direct quote. By the time Serafina started explaining how her gratitude journal had manifested a front row parking spot at the supermarket, I was mentally drafting my escape plan. This was my problem with gratitude. It all felt so woo-woo. It seemed to belong to a world of scented candles, healing crystals, and people who say namaste without a trace of irony. It was soft, intangible, and decidedly unscientific. Where was the data? Where were the studies? How could scribbling "I'm thankful for my new ergonomic mouse" in a leather-bound notebook possibly have a measurable impact on my neurological pathways and overall well-being? To my hyperlogical, productivity-obsessed brain, it was the equivalent of trying to fix a software bug by singing to the computer. It was a nice thought, but ultimately a waste of perfectly optimizable time. I dismissed gratitude as a placebo, at best, a nice little mental trick for people who weren't rigorous enough to engineer their happiness through sheer force of will in a well-designed Notion template. It was a fuzzy, feel-good concept that had no place in a life dedicated to efficiency and evidence. And yet, a tiny part of me was intrigued. A very, very tiny part hiding behind layers of cynicism and a desperate need for control. It was the part of me that was exhausted from the endless hustle. The part that suspected that maybe, just maybe, my equation was missing a variable.
I saw people like Serafina, who, despite my cynicism about her manifesting abilities, seemed genuinely, infuriatingly happy. Was it all an act? Or had they stumbled upon a secret that couldn't be quantified in a spreadsheet? The doctor in me, the scientist, was deeply skeptical, but the human in me, the one who was getting tired of the hamster wheel, couldn't shake a nagging question. What if I was wrong? What if this whole gratitude thing wasn't just a fluffy woo-woo distraction? What if it was a tool, just like my to-do list app or my calendar, a technology for the mind that I had dismissed simply because I didn't understand the user manual? That question was the tiny crack in the dam of my skepticism. It was the beginning of a journey that would force me to question everything I thought I knew about happiness, productivity, and the surprising power of a simple thank you. So I decided to approach it the only way I knew how, not as a spiritual awakening, but as a science experiment. And I, the ever-willing guinea pig, was about to be the subject of my own N-of-1 trial.
Chapter 3. The Experiment. Treating gratitude like a science project. So, how does a die-hard skeptic actually do gratitude? You don't light a candle and hope for the best. You don't start chanting affirmations to a pot plant. No. You put on a metaphorical lab coat, you design an experiment, and you start collecting data. My brain, conditioned by years of medical training and a borderline obsession with productivity apps, simply couldn't accept a premise without evidence. The anecdotes from people who manifested parking spots were useless to me. I needed something more rigorous. If this gratitude thing really worked, its effects had to be observable, at least in some small way. This wasn't going to be a spiritual quest. It was going to be a clinical trial with a sample size of 1, me. I was the principal investigator and the lab rat all rolled into one. If you're anything like me, the idea of just being more grateful sounds about as actionable as just be happier. It's a lovely sentiment, but it has no structure. It's not a system. My brain needed a protocol, an SOP, standard operating procedure, for appreciation. So I sat down and designed one, the hypothesis. Every good experiment starts with a clear hypothesis. Mine was this: a consistent daily gratitude practice for 30 days will lead to a measurable positive increase in self-reported happiness and perceived productivity. I wasn't aiming to prove it could cure all my problems or help me levitate. I was looking for a statistically significant uptick, however small, a signal in the noise of my busy life that this intervention was having some effect. The intervention, the 5-minute low-friction gratitude protocol. The next step was to define the intervention. It had to be simple, quick, and low friction. If it took more than 5 minutes, I knew my too busy for this nonsense excuse generator would kick in and I'd abandon it within a week. After a bit of preliminary research, because of course I did research, I landed on a method popularized by Martin Seligman, one of the founders of positive psychology. It's often called the 3 good things exercise. The protocol was simple. 1, every evening before bed, I would open a notebook. Initially a physical one, but it soon migrated to a dedicated Notion page, because of course it did. 2, I would write down 3 specific things that went well that day. Critically, they couldn't be generic. I'm grateful for my job was too broad. It had to be something like, the patient in bed 4 who's been really down smiled at one of my jokes today. 3, for each good thing, I had to write a short sentence about why it happened. This part is key. It forces your brain to move beyond just listing things and to actually analyze the positive events. For the patient smiling, I might write, this happened because I took an extra minute to chat with him instead of just rushing through my checks. That's it. The whole process would take at most 5 minutes.
It was so simple that even my hyper-efficient, optimization-obsessed brain couldn't argue with the time investment. The metrics. How to measure happy. Now for the tricky part, collecting data. How do you quantify a feeling? 1. Subjective happiness score, 1 to 10. At the end of each day, alongside my 3 good things, I would rate my overall mood for the day on a simple scale of 1 to 10. 1 being, I think I left my soul somewhere on the hospital ward, and 10 being, I am a golden god of joy and contentment. It's a subjective measure for sure, but tracking the trend over 30 days would be more telling than any single data point. 2. Productivity metrics. I was already tracking my productivity religiously. I used a task manager, Todoist at the time, and a time tracker, Toggle. I decided to monitor 2 key figures, my tasks completed count each day, and the number of deep work hours I managed to log. My theory was that if gratitude improved my mood and focus, it might have a knock-on effect on my output. The setup. I created a simple database in Notion with columns for the date, good thing number 1, why number 1, good thing number 2, why number 2, good thing number 3, why number 3, happiness score 1 to 10, and tasks completed. I went into this with the lowest of expectations. My inner cynic was fully prepared for the null hypothesis that after 30 days, I'd have a collection of mildly pleasant sentences and a graph that was flatter than a pancake. I half expected my day 1 entry to be, felt nothing, wasted 5 minutes, could have replied to 7 emails. But I had my protocol. I had my metrics. I was committed to the 30-day trial period. I was ready to press start on the experiment. I was ready to finally put the woo-woo to the test and see if there was any real hard evidence behind the power of gratitude. What I wasn't ready for was what the data would actually show me.
Part 2. The Gratitude Equation. Deconstructing the Science of Appreciation. Chapter 4. The Neuroscience of Thank You. How Gratitude Rewires Your Brain. For the first week of my gratitude experiment, I felt, well, a bit silly. There I was, dutifully logging my 3 good things every night, grateful that my flatmate did the washing up, grateful that I found a new keyboard shortcut that saves me 4 seconds. It felt nice, sure, but in a superficial, patting myself on the back sort of way. I still suspected it was just a placebo. But then, my inner nerd, the part of me that spent years memorizing anatomical charts and biochemical pathways, got curious. I couldn't just accept that it felt nice. I needed to understand the mechanism. What was actually happening inside my skull when I forced my brain to focus on the good stuff? As it turns out, gratitude isn't just a fluffy feeling. It's a powerful neurological event. When you practice gratitude, you're not just thinking happy thoughts. You're firing a specific set of circuits and releasing a potent cocktail of chemicals. You're giving your brain a workout. Your brain's default setting, the bug reporting software. First, we need to understand our brain's factory settings. Our brains didn't evolve to make us happy. They evolved to keep us alive. For our ancestors roaming the savannah, survival depended on being hyper-aware of threats. That rustle in the grass wasn't a gentle breeze, it was a potential lion. That weird-looking berry wasn't a new culinary experience, it was potential poison. This is called the negativity bias. Our brains are fundamentally wired to be better at spotting problems than at appreciating the good. Think of it like a piece of software that's brilliant at finding bugs, but barely registers when the program is running smoothly. This is why you can receive 10 compliments and 1 piece of criticism, and what do you fixate on for the rest of the day? The criticism. Your brain's bug reporting software is working perfectly. The problem is, most of us aren't running from lions anymore. Our bug reporting software is now flagging unanswered emails, awkward social interactions, and the fact that our favorite coffee shop is out of oat milk as existential threats. This default setting, while great for survival, is pretty terrible for our day-to-day happiness. The gratitude drug cocktail, dopamine and serotonin. So, how do we override this default setting? This is where gratitude comes in. When you actively recall and appreciate something good in your life, you trigger a chemical cascade in your brain. The two most important players here are dopamine and serotonin. 1. Dopamine, the "ooh, nice" chemical. Dopamine is the neurotransmitter of reward and pleasure. It's the little hit you get when you tick something off your to-do list, win a game, or eat a piece of chocolate. Gratitude activates brain regions associated with the dopamine system. By consciously acknowledging a good thing, you are essentially giving yourself a little reward. It feels good, which motivates you to do it again, creating a positive feedback loop. 2. Serotonin, the everything's okay chemical. Serotonin is the mood regulator. It contributes to feelings of well-being and happiness. If you've ever heard of SSRIs, a common type of antidepressant, they work by increasing the amount of available serotonin in the brain. Here's the cool part. Studies have shown that a regular gratitude practice can naturally boost serotonin production. It's like a small, all-natural antidepressant with zero side effects. So when you write down, "I'm grateful for that sunny walk I took at lunchtime," you're not just writing words. You're giving yourself a gentle, natural dose of the brain's own feel-good drugs. Upgrading your hardware. How gratitude rewires your brain. This is where it gets really exciting for any productivity nerd. The effects aren't just temporary. By consistently practicing gratitude, you are physically changing the structure of your brain. This phenomenon is called neuroplasticity. It's the understanding that our brains are not fixed, static organs. They're dynamic and constantly remodeling themselves based on our thoughts and experiences. Imagine your brain is a dense forest. Every time you have a thought, you create a faint trail through the undergrowth. Because of our negativity bias, most of our well-trodden paths are the negative ones: worry, self-criticism, anxiety. These are the superhighways of our mind. It's easy and automatic for our thoughts to travel down them. When you first start practicing gratitude, it feels like forging a new path. It's difficult and requires conscious effort. You're hacking away at the undergrowth with a machete. But every time you consciously look for the good, every time you make a note of something you're thankful for, you're stamping down that new trail. Do it every day, and that faint trail becomes a well-defined path. Keep it up, and that path becomes a road. Eventually, it can become a new superhighway. Your brain learns that this positive pathway is a valid and efficient route for thought. It starts to become automatic. You begin to notice the good things without even trying. Suddenly, I understood. This wasn't a placebo. This was brain training. I wasn't just going through the motions of a self-help exercise. I was actively working to counteract my brain's buggy prehistoric programming. I was strengthening positive neural circuits and weakening negative ones. I was no longer just a skeptic performing a silly experiment. I was an engineer, deliberately redesigning my own mind for more happiness and less stress. I was upgrading my own hardware. And that, for a productivity-obsessed, evidence-loving former medical student, was a concept I could finally get behind. Chapter 5. The Happiness Set Point. Hacking Your Baseline for Joy. I remember the exact moment I got the email saying I'd been accepted into medical school. For years, that single goal had been my entire world. It was the reason for the all-night study sessions, the missed parties, the color-coded revision timetables that made my bedroom look like the mission control room for a moon landing. Getting that acceptance letter was, I assumed, the final boss battle. Once defeated, I would unlock a permanent state of happiness. And for about a week, I did. I was walking on air. The world was brighter, food tasted better, and I was pretty sure I could fly. But then a funny thing happened. The euphoria started to fade. The overwhelming joy was replaced by a new, more familiar feeling. A low-grade anxiety about the next thing. Now I had to actually survive medical school. The goalpost hadn't just moved, it had sprinted off into the horizon. My happiness level, after a brief and glorious spike, had returned pretty much to where it was before. If this sounds familiar, it's because you, me, and everyone we know are subject to a powerful psychological phenomenon. As it turns out, there's a name for this frustrating cycle: hedonic adaptation, or, as it's more memorably known, the hedonic treadmill. Your happiness thermostat. Think of your baseline happiness as being controlled by a thermostat. This is your happiness set point. For most of us, this set point is surprisingly stable and largely determined by genetics and long-term circumstances. When something great happens, you get a promotion, you fall in love, you buy a new gadget, it's like the heating has been cranked up, the temperature in the room shoots up, and you feel warm and happy. But the thermostat has a mind of its own. It quickly registers that things are hotter than the set point and kicks in to cool them down. Before you know it, you're back at your usual 21 degrees, and the promotion is just your job. The same is true for negative events. A bad breakup or a failed exam might feel like being thrown in a freezer, but eventually, the thermostat works to warm you back up to your baseline. This is why lottery winners, after an initial period of ecstasy, often report being no happier than they were before their win. It's why we get used to our new car, our bigger house, and our faster phone with alarming speed. Our brains are adaptation machines. We get the thing we want, we feel great for a bit, and then our happiness level just resets to factory settings. This system was great for our ancestors. It kept them motivated to hunt, gather, and build better shelters. But for us, it creates the endless, exhausting "what's next" syndrome. We're constantly running on this treadmill, believing that real lasting happiness is just over the next hill, without realizing we're not actually moving forward. Getting off the treadmill. So are we doomed to be stuck at this default setting forever? Is any attempt to become happier ultimately futile? Well, no. This is where we get to be clever. This is where we can apply a bit of engineering to our own minds. While it's hard to change the thermostat's hardware, we can learn to manually recalibrate it. This is the single most powerful function of gratitude. Gratitude is the system interrupt for hedonic adaptation. The hedonic treadmill is powered by the pursuit of what you don't have. Gratitude, by its very nature, is the practice of appreciating what you do have. It yanks you off the treadmill by forcing your attention away from the ever-receding horizon of what's next and onto the solid ground of what is. This was the biggest surprise from the first couple of weeks of my experiment. My 3 good things list wasn't just, I achieved X today. It started to fill up with things I had completely taken for granted. The coffee I made this morning was genuinely excellent, instead of just mindlessly chugging it while checking emails. I had a really interesting conversation with my colleague about a tricky diagnosis, instead of just seeing it as another part of a stressful day. The feeling of getting into a warm bed after a long, cold day, something I'd experienced thousands of times, but never consciously appreciated. Each of these entries was a small act of defiance against hedonic adaptation. I was forcing my brain to re-experience the pleasure of things that had long since faded into the background noise of my life. I was finding novelty and joy, not in acquiring new things, but in paying attention to the old ones. Practicing gratitude is like manually recalibrating your happiness thermostat. You're teaching it that the ambient temperature of your life is actually warmer and more comfortable than it previously assumed. By consistently noticing the good, you are gently, but persistently, nudging your happiness set point upwards. It's the antidote to the great lie that fulfillment is something you achieve in the future. Gratitude is the radical act of finding it right where you are. It's the psychological equivalent of hitting save in a video game, allowing you to appreciate the progress you've made before you charge off to fight the next boss. And it's the first real step to hacking your baseline for a happier life. Chapter 6. The Magnifying Glass Effect. How Gratitude Expands Your World. During my most intense exam periods in medical school, my entire world would shrink to the size of an A4 textbook page. My field of vision, both literally and metaphorically, would narrow until the only things that existed were anatomical diagrams, drug dosages, and the ever-present, crushing fear of failure. Friends would text, and I wouldn't reply. The sun might be shining, but I wouldn't notice. My entire reality became a tunnel, and the only light at the end of it was the final day of the exams. In that state of high-stress tunnel vision, my brain was doing exactly what it was designed to do: identify and neutralize a threat. The threat was failing the exam. My cognitive resources were all channeled towards that single point of focus. It's an effective, if brutal, survival mechanism. The problem is, many of us live in a low-grade version of that tunnel vision all the time. Our negativity bias, which we talked about earlier, acts like a pair of permanent threat goggles. We scan our environment not for opportunities, but for problems. The overflowing email inbox, the looming deadline, the awkward thing we said in a meeting. Our world shrinks to the size of our anxieties. For the first few weeks of my gratitude experiment, I thought the goal was simply to feel a bit better, to get that little hit of dopamine and serotonin. But what I started to notice was a far more profound side effect. The world started to look bigger and more interesting. This phenomenon is what the psychologist Barbara Fredrickson calls the broaden and build theory, and it's one of the most powerful concepts I've ever come across. The magnifying glass in your mind. Think of your attention as a powerful magnifying glass. Because of our negativity bias, most of us spend our days using this magnifying glass to inspect our flaws and problems. We hover over a mistake we made until it's burned into our mind. We zoom in on an insecurity until it blots out everything else. Gratitude is the conscious act of picking up that same magnifying glass and deliberately pointing it at something good. Fredrickson's research shows that positive emotions like joy, interest, contentment, and especially gratitude do something remarkable. Unlike negative emotions, which narrow our focus for survival, positive emotions broaden it. When you experience a moment of genuine gratitude, it's like switching your brain from a telephoto lens to a wide-angle lens. Your mindset literally expands. You become more creative. Studies show that people in a positive emotional state are significantly better at creative problem-solving tasks. They can see more possibilities and make connections they would have otherwise missed. When you're not in threat mode, your brain has the spare capacity to play and explore. More open to experience. Gratitude makes you more curious. Suddenly, that conversation with a colleague isn't an interruption, it's an opportunity to learn something new. That walk in the park isn't a waste of time, it's a chance to notice the changing seasons. More connected to others. When you use your magnifying glass to find the good in other people, appreciating a kind word from a friend or a helpful act from a stranger, it dissolves the cynicism that keeps us isolated. It makes you want to connect and pay it forward. This was the effect I was feeling. After a few weeks of my nightly ritual, I found myself coming up with better ideas for my YouTube videos. I was more patient with difficult patients on the ward. I noticed small, beautiful things I had been blind to before. The way the light hit the hospital buildings in the morning, the taste of a really good cup of tea, the relief on a family member's face. My world, which had often felt like a series of tasks to be completed, was starting to regain its color and texture. Building your upgraded self. But here's the build part of the theory, and this is where it gets really powerful for the long term. These daily moments of broadening aren't just fleeting states. Each one is like laying a single brick. Over time, they build lasting personal resources that fundamentally upgrade who you are. You build psychological resources. Every time you find something to be grateful in a tough situation, you're laying the brick of resilience. You're teaching your brain that it can find the good even when things are bad. You build social resources. Every time you express gratitude to someone, you strengthen that social bond, laying a brick for a stronger support network. You build intellectual resources. A broadened, curious mind learns more and acquires new skills, laying the bricks of knowledge and expertise. This is the opposite of a vicious cycle. It's a virtuous upward spiral. Practicing gratitude makes you feel good. Feeling good broadens your mindset. A broadened mindset helps you notice more things to be grateful for. And at the same time, you build the resources that make your life objectively better. Gratitude, then, isn't about ignoring the negative. The weeds in the garden of your life will always be there. Gratitude is about consciously choosing to also magnify the flowers. And what I was beginning to learn is that the more you focus on the flowers, the more you cultivate the kind of garden where they can't help but grow.
Part 3. The Applied Science of Gratitude. Practical Strategies for a Better Life. Chapter 7. The 5-Minute Gratitude Habit. The low-effort, high-reward practice. All right, so we've talked about the science, we've geeked out on neuroscience, hedonic adaptation, and psychological theories. This is the point where, in many self-help books, you are told to go forth and just be more grateful. That, to me, is like a medical textbook telling you to just be a good doctor. It's a nice idea, but it's completely useless without a practical, actionable procedure to follow. If you're anything like me, your life is already a complex Jenga tower of commitments, tasks, and responsibilities. The idea of adding another thing to your to-do list, even a beneficial one, can feel overwhelming. This is where most new habits go to die. We get a burst of enthusiasm, design a grand, ambitious system, stick to it for 3 days, get overwhelmed, and then abandon it entirely, feeling like a failure. I call this the enthusiasm fallacy, the belief that our initial motivation will be enough to sustain a new difficult habit. It never is. The secret to building a habit that sticks isn't willpower or motivation, it's engineering. Specifically, it's about designing a habit with such ridiculously low activation energy that it's easier to do it than to make an excuse not to. Welcome to the 5-Minute Gratitude Habit. This is the exact low-friction protocol I used to start my experiment, and it's the one I still use today. The SOP, Standard Operating Procedure for Gratitude. As I mentioned back in Chapter 3, the core of the practice is the 3 good things exercise. It's simple, evidence-based, and, most importantly, fast. Here is the entire procedure step by step. 1. Choose your tool. This can be a fresh page in a notebook, a specific journal, or a digital tool. I started with a physical moleskin notebook, but quickly moved to a simple template in Notion. The tool doesn't matter, but having a dedicated space for it does. 2. Set a time and place. We'll get to this more in a second, but the easiest time is right before you go to sleep, when the day is done. 3. The prompt. At the top of the page, write today's date. Then simply write the numbers 1, 2, and 3. 4. List 3 specific good things. Next to each number, write down one specific positive thing that happened today. The key word here is specific. Don't write, "I'm grateful for my job." Do write, "My boss gave me positive feedback on the presentation I was nervous about." Don't write, "I'm thankful for my friends." Do write, "My friend Sarah sent me a funny meme that made me laugh out loud during a stressful afternoon." 5. Add the secret sauce. Why? After each good thing, write one short sentence explaining why it happened or why it felt good. This is the most important step. It forces your brain to process the event, not just list it. Positive feedback on the presentation. Why? Because I put in the extra time to prepare last night and it paid off. Funny meme that made me laugh out loud. Why? Because it was a reminder that someone was thinking of me and it broke my pattern of stress. That's it. The entire process takes less time than it takes to brush your teeth. How to make it stick. The 4 laws of habit engineering. Knowing what to do is easy. Making it an automatic, non-negotiable part of your day is the hard part. To do that, we can borrow a framework from one of my favorite books, Atomic Habits by James Clear. 1. Make it obvious, the cue. The best way to remember a new habit is to link it to an old one. This is called habit stacking. Don't just hope you'll remember to do it, anchor it to something you already do every single night without fail. After I brush my teeth, I will open my gratitude journal. Or, when my head hits the pillow, I will open the Notion app on my phone. I put my journal directly on top of my pillow. I literally had to move it to get into bed. You can't get a more obvious cue than that. 2. Make it attractive, the craving. Don't let this feel like a chore. Make it a pleasant ritual. Buy a nice pen that you enjoy writing with. Use a beautiful leather-bound journal. Frame it in your mind not as I have to do my gratitude homework, but as I get to end my day by focusing on the good bits. 3. Make it easy, the response. This is the core principle. The habit must take less than 5 minutes, and ideally less than 2. On days when you are exhausted and can't be bothered, apply the 2-minute rule. Just open the journal. Just write one thing. The goal is not to be perfect. The goal is not to break the chain. Lower the bar so much that you can't fail. 4. Make it satisfying, the reward. The habit has a built-in reward, the little mood boost you get from focusing on the positive. But you can amplify this. Every now and then, take 60 seconds to read through your entries from the past week or month. This creates a powerful feedback loop. You're not just getting a list of good things, you're building a tangible library of your own happiness, which is incredibly satisfying to review. This system is designed to be bomb-proof. It bypasses the need for motivation and relies instead on smart design. It's not about finding the discipline to do it. It's about making it so easy that you can't not do it. This isn't a grand gesture of self-improvement. It's a small, consistent, and scientifically grounded investment in your own well-being that, as you'll see, pays the highest dividends. Chapter 8. Gratitude in the trenches. Finding the good when things go wrong. There's a specific kind of exhaustion that only comes from a bad night on call as a junior doctor. I remember one particular shift. It was 3 a.m. The hospital air was thick with the smell of antiseptic and stale coffee. I had just finished dealing with a patient who had taken a sudden turn for the worse. I was running on 4 hours of broken sleep. I'd made a minor, non-critical mistake that I couldn't stop replaying in my head, and my pager was screaming for my attention again. In that moment, if you had appeared and cheerfully told me to find something to be grateful for, I would have seriously considered throwing my lukewarm cup of tea at you. Let's be honest. When you've just lost a client, had a massive argument with your partner, or received some genuinely bad news, the idea of practicing gratitude can feel not just difficult, but absurd. It can feel like a lie. It can feel like toxic positivity, that horrible trend of putting a happy sticker on a dumpster fire. And if gratitude means pretending that the bad things aren't happening, then I agree. That's delusional, not helpful. But that's not what this is about. Gratitude in the trenches isn't about ignoring the pain. It's not about being grateful for the terrible thing that happened. It's about finding something good despite it. It's an act of psychological defiance. It's the practice of reminding yourself that even when one part of your life is on fire, the whole world isn't burning down. The spotlight of your attention. Think of your attention as a single, powerful spotlight on a dark stage. When something bad happens, it's like a big, dramatic villain has just stormed into the center of the stage. Naturally, your spotlight snaps onto them. They're loud, they're threatening, and they take up all your focus. To ignore the villain would be foolish. You have to deal with them. But if you keep your spotlight fixed only on them, you become blind to everything else on the stage. You don't see the friend waiting in the wings with a cup of tea. You don't see the solid ground beneath your feet. You don't see the exit sign that shows you a way out. Practicing gratitude in a difficult moment is the conscious act of taking control of that spotlight. You acknowledge the villain, you don't pretend they're not there,
But then you deliberately swing the beam of right, even for just 30 seconds, onto something else, something solid, something true, something good. This isn't about pretending the problem doesn't exist. It's about putting it into perspective. 3 practical strategies for a bad day. On those days when writing 3 good things feels impossible, you need a different toolkit. Here are 3 mental techniques you can use when you're in the thick of it. 1. The Stoic reframe. What can this teach me? The Stoic philosophers were masters of this. Instead of dwelling on the pain of a situation, they would ask what it could teach them. What virtue could it help them practice? Okay, instead of, I can't believe I messed up that presentation, try, this is a painful but powerful lesson in the importance of double-checking my slides. I'm grateful for the opportunity to learn this now on a relatively small project rather than a huge one. This will make my future work better. You're not grateful for the mistake. You're grateful for the lesson it contains. 2. The zoom out. Where does this fit in the bigger picture? Our brains tend to catastrophize, blowing up a present problem to feel like it's our entire reality. The zoom out is an exercise in perspective. Ask yourself, in a week, a month, a year from now, how much will this specific moment matter? Often, the answer is very little. This shrinks the problem down to its actual size. You can then feel a sense of gratitude for the simple fact that this too shall pass. I'm grateful that this feeling of frustration isn't permanent. 3. Finding the constants. What is still good? This is the most direct gratitude practice for tough times. The villain is on the stage, fine, but what else is there? Acknowledge the constants, the things that are good and true regardless of the current crisis. My project at work is a disaster, but I'm grateful for my health. I had a huge fight with my partner, but I'm grateful that I have a safe, warm home to sleep in tonight. I'm feeling completely overwhelmed, but I'm grateful for that one friend I know I can call who will just listen. These statements don't negate the pain, they coexist with it. They anchor you, building your resilience muscle. These techniques aren't magic spells. They won't make the pain instantly disappear, but they do something far more important. They build resilience. Think of resilience as a muscle. Every time you face adversity and consciously choose to shift your spotlight, even for a moment, you are doing a single rep at the mental gym. The first time, it feels incredibly difficult. The 100th time, it's still hard, but it's a familiar motion. Your resilience muscle is stronger. This is the real power of gratitude in the trenches. It's not about putting on a fake smile. It's the ultimate training for a life that is inevitably, beautifully, and resiliently imperfect. It's the tool that ensures that when the bad days come, and they will, they no longer get to own the whole stage.
Chapter 9. The Gratitude Productivity Flywheel. How Appreciation Fuels Achievement. For years, I treated my time like a miser hoarding gold. Every minute was allocated, tracked, and optimized. In this hyper-efficient worldview, an activity like practicing gratitude would have been categorized under the same label as aimlessly scrolling Instagram, a time suck, a distraction from the real work. If you're a productivity nerd like me, you've probably felt this. We see a trade-off. Time spent on soft skills like mindfulness or gratitude is time not spent on deep work, on clearing our inbox, on making progress. It feels like a cost. This is the single biggest misconception I had, and it's profoundly wrong. Gratitude isn't a cost. It's not a tax on your productivity time. It's an investment. It's the fuel that makes the entire engine of productivity run smoother, faster, and with less friction. The best model I've found for this is the concept of the flywheel. Popularized by Jim Collins in his book, Good to Great, a flywheel is a massive, heavy wheel that takes immense effort to get moving. The first push is incredibly hard. The second is slightly less so. But with each consistent push in the same direction, the wheel builds momentum. Eventually, it starts spinning so fast that its own weight does the work, creating a powerful, self-reinforcing loop of momentum. Gratitude and productivity work in exactly the same way. It's not a one-to-one transaction. It's a virtuous cycle. Here's how each push on the gratitude flywheel builds unstoppable momentum in your work. Push number 1. From have to get to. Motivation. Think about your to-do list. How much of it feels like a list of chores? I have to answer these emails. I have to finish this report. This framing drains your energy before you even begin. It positions work as an obstacle to be overcome. A regular gratitude practice subtly reframes this entire relationship. By training your brain to spot the good, you start to see the opportunities hidden within your obligations. I have to write this difficult report turns into, I get to use my skills to solve this problem. I'm grateful to have a job where my brain is challenged. I have to sit in this boring meeting becomes, I'm grateful to be part of a team. I get to learn from my colleagues' perspectives, even if I disagree. This isn't about pretending to love every task. It's about shifting from a mindset of burden to one of opportunity. This shift boosts intrinsic motivation, the drive that comes from within. And an intrinsically motivated person will always outperform someone powered only by deadlines and pressure. Push number 2. Expanding your problem-solving toolkit, creativity. As we explored in Chapter 6, positive emotions, particularly gratitude, trigger the broaden and build effect. When you're stressed or anxious, your brain is in tunnel vision mode. It can only see the well-worn paths, the obvious and often wrong solutions. A moment of gratitude is like a mental reset button. It calms the threat response system and frees up cognitive resources. It broadens your perspective, allowing you to see problems from different angles and make creative connections you would have otherwise missed. When you're stuck on a complex problem, taking a 2-minute gratitude break can be more effective than banging your head against the wall for another 30 minutes. You come back to the problem with a wider, more resourceful mind. Push number 3. Upgrading your teamwork. Collaboration. Productivity is rarely a solo sport. It relies on collaboration, communication, and goodwill. And nothing builds goodwill faster than genuine appreciation. When you start looking for things to be grateful for at work, you inevitably start noticing the contributions of others. The colleague who proofread your report, the IT person who fixed your laptop in record time, the team member who made a fresh pot of coffee. Expressing this gratitude is a superpower. A simple, specific thank you can transform team dynamics, build trust, and make people want to help you. This reduces friction on projects, gets you faster responses, and creates a positive social environment where everyone's productivity gets a lift. Practical tips: integrating the flywheel into your workday. How do you start pushing the flywheel at work? Here are a few low-friction ways. 1. The 60-second workday win. At the end of your workday, before you shut your laptop, take 1 minute. Write down one thing that went well and why. It could be a task you completed, a helpful conversation, or a problem you solved. This closes your day on a positive note, preventing work stress from bleeding into your personal time. 2. The difficulty reframe. When you're facing a task you're dreading, find one aspect of it to be grateful for. I'm dreading this data analysis, but I'm grateful I have access to this software that makes it possible. This small reframe can be enough to overcome the initial inertia of procrastination. 3. The gratitude scent folder.
Make a commitment to send one email or message each week expressing genuine thanks to a colleague. Be specific. Instead of "thanks for your help," try "thank you so much for staying late to help me with those slides. Your insights on slide 7 really improved the whole presentation." This takes 2 minutes and has an incredible ROI in social capital. Initially, these actions will feel like a deliberate push, but soon the flywheel starts to turn on its own. A more positive mindset leads to better work, which leads to more positive feedback, which gives you more to be grateful for. The cycle builds on itself until productivity is no longer something you have to grind out, but something that flows naturally from a state of appreciation.
Chapter 10: The Ripple Effect. How your gratitude impacts others. For a long time, my gratitude practice was a secret. It was a private conversation between me and my Notion page. I was the stoic scientist in his lab, dutifully recording data, observing the effects on my own internal state. It felt personal, almost selfish. It was a tool for my own happiness and my own productivity. I was missing half the equation. Keeping gratitude to yourself is like cooking a fantastic meal and then eating it alone in the dark. You get the nourishment, sure, but you miss the joy of sharing it, the connection it creates, the pleasure of seeing someone else enjoy it. The true power of gratitude is unleashed the moment it leaves your head and enters the world. It's a tool not just for internal engineering, but for social engineering in the best possible sense of the word. A single, well-expressed thank you is like a stone dropped into a calm lake. The initial impact is small and localized, but the ripples spread wider than you can possibly imagine. The social glue, the find, remind, and bind theory of gratitude. As humans, we are wired for connection. We have a deep, fundamental need to feel seen, valued, and appreciated. When you express gratitude to someone, you are directly fulfilling these core human needs. Psychologists have a neat little framework for this called the find, remind, and bind theory of gratitude. It works like this. 1. Find. Gratitude helps you find good, supportive, and kind people. Your gratitude practice trains you to notice the colleagues who are helpful, the friends who are thoughtful, and the family members who are supportive. You start spotting the good actors in your life. 2. Remind. Expressing gratitude reminds these people that they are valued. It puts a spotlight on their positive actions and signals that their efforts have been noticed. In a world where many people feel overlooked, being genuinely seen is an incredibly powerful gift. 3. Bind. This is the magic step. When people feel seen and valued by you, it strengthens their relational bond to you. It acts as a powerful social glue, transforming acquaintances into allies and good relationships into great ones. It fosters a sense of reciprocity and trust, making people more likely to help and support you in the future. This isn't manipulation. It's the foundation of all healthy, positive relationships. It's a feedback loop. You appreciate someone, they feel good, they appreciate you back, and the entire relationship levels up. The high cost of silence. Think about the opposite scenario. Have you ever gone out of your way to help a colleague only to receive a grunt in response, or worse, complete silence? How did it make you feel? Did it make you eager to help them again? Of course not. When effort goes unacknowledged, motivation withers and dies. Resentment starts to grow. Unexpressed gratitude leaves a vacuum, and that vacuum is often filled with feelings of being taken for granted. In this sense, withholding gratitude isn't a neutral act. It actively erodes the foundations of your relationships. The anatomy of a powerful thank you, a 3-step protocol. So, how do you express gratitude effectively? Like any other skill, it can be broken down into a simple protocol. A generic thanks is better than nothing, but a well-constructed expression of gratitude can be 100 times more powerful. Here is the 3-part anatomy of a truly effective thank you. Step 1. Be specific. State the action. Don't be vague. Pinpoint the exact thing the other person did. This proves you were actually paying attention. Generic. Thanks for your help with the project. Specific. Thank you for taking the time to review my presentation slides yesterday afternoon. Step 2. State the impact. Explain how it helped you. This is the part most people miss. Close the loop by explaining the positive effect their action had on you. It makes the other person feel significant and valuable. Generic. I really appreciate it. Impactful. Your feedback on the data visualization on slide 12 was so insightful. It made the whole argument much clearer, and I feel so much more confident going into the meeting now. I'm always so impressed by your keen eye for detail. It's a huge asset to the team. Let's put it all together. Hey Name, I just wanted to say thank you for taking the time to review my presentation slides yesterday afternoon. Your feedback on the data visualization on slide 12 was so insightful. It made the whole argument much clearer, and I feel so much more confident going into the meeting now. I'm always so impressed by your keen eye for detail. It's a huge asset to the team. This takes maybe 45 seconds to write in an email or say in person. The ROI on those 45 seconds is immense. You haven't just thanked someone, you have made them feel seen, valued, and significant. You have strengthened a bond. You have sent out a ripple. And that ripple doesn't stop with them. That person, feeling appreciated and positive, is now more likely to be patient with the next person they speak to, more likely to help another colleague, more likely to go home and be kinder to their family. Your small, intentional act of appreciation has just injected a dose of positivity into the entire system. That is the beautiful, scalable power of the ripple effect.
Chapter 11. The compound interest of gratitude. Small thanks, big returns. When I first started learning about investing in the stock market, I was deeply underwhelmed. I'd read all the books. I understood the theory of compound interest. I knew, intellectually, that it was the 8th wonder of the world, as Einstein supposedly called it. So I diligently put away a small amount of money from my junior doctor salary into a low-cost index fund. And then I watched it. For the first month, my £100 investment made 50p. It was laughable. I'd spent hours researching and setting everything up for the price of a half-eaten chocolate bar. My brain, obsessed with immediate results and tangible progress, screamed that this was a monumental waste of time. I could have gotten more satisfaction from just buying a fancy coffee. This initial disappointment is the exact same feeling many people have when they start a gratitude practice. You do your 3 good things for a week. You feel a bit nicer, maybe, but your life hasn't magically transformed. The annoying colleague is still annoying. The deadlines are still looming. It's easy to look at the tiny return and think, is that it? Is this really worth the effort? This is because our brains are notoriously bad at understanding exponential growth. We think in straight, linear lines. We expect our effort and results to be neatly correlated. Put in 1 unit of effort, get 1 unit of reward. But gratitude, like investing, doesn't work that way. It's not a savings account with a simple interest rate. It's a compounding investment. The real magic isn't in the initial deposits, it's in the interest that your interest starts to earn. The gratitude snowball. Think of your first gratitude entry as a small snowball at the top of a very long hill. You give it a little push, it rolls a bit and picks up a tiny bit more snow. It's still small. You push it again the next day, and the next. For a while, the growth is barely noticeable. This is the danger zone, where most people give up because they can't see the progress. But if you are consistent, something incredible starts to happen.
The snowball gets big enough that its own weight and momentum start to pull in more snow, faster and faster. It's not just your daily push making it bigger anymore. The snowball is now growing itself. This is how the returns from gratitude compound in your life. Number 1, neurological compounding. Your daily practice, the principal investment, strengthens a positive neural pathway. This makes it slightly easier to notice good things tomorrow, the first interest payment. As the pathway gets stronger, your brain's default state slowly shifts. You start noticing the good automatically without trying. Your interest is now earning its own interest as a positive mindset generates more positive thoughts. Number 2, relational compounding. You express gratitude to a colleague, a deposit into a social bank account. They feel good and are more likely to help you in the future. Interest. Because they helped you, you have another reason to be grateful, and you thank them again, strengthening the bond further. A small initial investment in a relationship can compound into a powerful alliance, built on mutual trust and appreciation. Number 3, opportunity compounding. A grateful, positive mindset, thanks to your investment, makes you more open and creative, the broaden and build effect. This leads you to spot a small opportunity you'd otherwise have missed. You act on it, which leads to a small success. That success gives you more confidence and resources, opening the door to even bigger opportunities. Your initial investment in your mindset has compounded into real-world results. The unbreakable rule: consistency over intensity. The engine of compound interest has one non-negotiable rule. You have to leave the money in the market. You have to be consistent. Pulling your money out after one bad month can lock in a loss and forfeits all future growth. It's the same with gratitude. Having one bad day and deciding this isn't working is the fastest way to kill your momentum. The power of this practice is not in the intensity. You don't need to spend an hour writing a heartfelt essay of thanks every day. That's the equivalent of trying to time the market. It's stressful and usually ineffective. The real power is in the unbroken consistency of the small 5-minute deposit, day after day, week after week. It's about trusting the process, even when the initial returns feel laughably small. It's about understanding that you're not just logging today's wins, you are investing in a future version of yourself, a version whose brain is wired for positivity, whose relationships are stronger, and who sees a world of opportunity instead of a world of problems. So, when you sit down tonight to write your 3 good things, don't think of it as a chore. Think of yourself as a long-term investor. You're making a small, smart, daily deposit into the most valuable asset you will ever own, the entire quality of your life. And you can trust that over time, the returns will be immeasurable.
Chapter 12, Beyond the Journal, Embodying Gratitude in Everything You Do. For the first 6 months or so, my gratitude journal felt like taking my vitamins. I knew it was good for me, I could feel the long-term benefits, but it was a distinct, scheduled activity. It was something I did for 5 minutes before I went to sleep. It was an application I ran, not the operating system itself. Then one day, I was walking to the hospital on a perfectly ordinary Tuesday. It was gray and drizzling, I was running slightly late, and I was mentally preparing for a busy and stressful day on the wards. And then I just noticed it. I noticed the way the rain made the pavement shine. I felt a small, unprompted wave of appreciation for my waterproof jacket that was keeping me warm and dry. I thought of the podcast I was listening to and felt a surge of gratitude for the fact that I could learn from brilliant people for free while I walked. None of this was forced. I didn't have a journal in my hand. It wasn't my designated gratitude time. It just happened. That was the moment I realized the training wheels were coming off. The practice was no longer just a practice.
it was starting to become a part of me. The application I had been running every night was slowly but surely rewriting my entire mental operating system. This is the ultimate goal. The journal, the exercises, the protocols, they are the installation program. They are the tools you use to dig the new neural pathways. But the end game is not to be a person who is really good at writing down what they're grateful for. The end game is to be a person who is grateful. It's the shift from consciously doing gratitude to unconsciously being grateful. Gratitude as your default setting. When your operating system is upgraded, gratitude stops being a feature you have to actively open and starts running in the background of everything you do. It becomes your new default setting, changing how you process the world in real time. What does this actually look like? In your work, you're in a frustrating meeting that's running overtime. The old OS would be focused on the irritation, the wasted minutes, the incompetence. The new OS still recognizes the frustration, but it also notices other things in the background. I'm grateful for my colleague who is trying to get us back on track. I'm grateful that I have a job where my opinion is even asked for. I'm grateful that this meeting will eventually end. It doesn't eliminate the negative. It just adds a layer of perspective that makes it more bearable. In your relationships, your partner forgets to take out the bins again. The old OS immediately flags this as an annoyance, a data point in the "they don't listen to me" file. The new OS still sees the full bin, but it runs a background process that also remembers the cup of coffee they made you this morning, the way they supported you last week, and the fact that they are, in general, a wonderful human who is not defined by this one small oversight. You can address the problem without letting it poison the entire interaction. In the face of failure, you launch a project and it flops. The old OS is brutal. It runs the "I'm a failure" and "I've wasted so much time" programs on a loop. The new OS is more compassionate. It allows you to feel the disappointment, but it also prompts you to search for the good. I'm deeply disappointed this didn't work, but I am so grateful for the things I learned in the process. I'm grateful for the team who worked on it with me. I'm grateful for the courage I had to even try. The gratitude equation, your new lens on life. At the start of this book, I was a skeptic, trying to engineer a happier, more productive life. I thought it was a simple equation of inputs and outputs. What I discovered is that gratitude isn't just another variable you add to the equation. Gratitude is the lens through which you view the entire equation of your life. It doesn't change the variables. There will always be struggle, disappointment, and bad days. But it changes how you interpret them. It changes their weight. It magnifies the good and shrinks the bad. Not by delusion, but by perspective. Living this way is not about becoming a blissfully happy monk who is immune to all negative emotion. That's not realistic or even desirable. It's about becoming an anti-fragile human being. It's about building a life where your happiness is no longer a fragile thing, completely dependent on your external circumstances, but a robust and resilient state that is generated from within. It's about living with intentional appreciation. It's about choosing to use your magnifying glass to find the flowers, even on the days when the garden is full of weeds. You started this book, perhaps, as a skeptic. I hope you'll finish it as an experimenter. The protocol is simple, the investment is small, and the potential returns are nothing less than the entire quality of your life. The experiment is yours to run. The returns are yours to keep.
Conclusion: the upgraded operating system. Living a life of intentional appreciation. My life used to run on a very buggy operating system. Let's call it Productivity OS 1.0. Its core programming was built on the flawed logic we explored in Chapter 1, that happiness was a direct result of achievement. Its features included a relentless focus on the future, an addiction to ticking off to-do list items, and a hypersensitivity to problems, flaws, and inefficiencies. And it was riddled with bugs. It was prone to crashing into burnout. It drained my mental battery life.
And its most frustrating glitch was the hedonic treadmill. No matter how much I achieved, the system would always reset my happiness levels back to a baseline of mildly dissatisfied, must do more. This book has been the story of a system update. It started, as all good updates do, with a healthy dose of skepticism. I wasn't looking for a spiritual awakening. I was looking for a patch to fix the bugs. I approached gratitude not as a belief system, but as a piece of software to be tested. We began by treating it like a science project, setting up a simple, low-friction experiment. We then delved into the source code, discovering that this wasn't a placebo. It was a powerful piece of neuroengineering that gives our brain a cocktail of dopamine and serotonin. We learned that it was the ultimate hack for the hedonic treadmill, allowing us to manually recalibrate our happiness set point. We saw how this new software didn't just fix internal bugs, but also upgraded our interaction with the outside world. It acted like a magnifying glass, broadening our perspective and helping us spot opportunities we'd otherwise have missed. We discovered it wasn't a drain on our efficiency, but the very fuel for the gratitude productivity flywheel, turning appreciation into tangible achievement. We watched as its benefits rippled outwards, strengthening our relationships and building our communities. And finally, we understood its incredible investment potential. We learned that these small, daily deposits of appreciation compound over time, yielding returns that can fundamentally reshape the entire portfolio of our life. So where does that leave us? It leaves us with the option to install a new operating system, Gratitude OS. This upgraded system doesn't delete the negative files from your life. The struggles, the setbacks, and the bad days will still be there, but it changes how you process them. It runs a quiet, powerful background process of appreciation that provides a constant layer of perspective. It gives you the space between a stressful event and your reaction to it. It reframes "I have to" into "I get to." It makes you resilient, not by making you immune to pain, but by constantly reminding you of the solid ground beneath your feet. Living with this upgraded OS is what I call a life of intentional appreciation. It's the conscious choice to move through the world looking not for what's missing, but for what's there. It's the practice of finding the signal of joy in the noise of everyday life. This transformation doesn't start with a life-changing epiphany. It doesn't require a silent retreat or a radical career change. It starts with a single sentence written in a notebook. It starts with one specific thank you sent to a colleague. It starts with a 5-minute investment at the end of your day. You began this book, perhaps, as a skeptic. I hope you'll finish it as an experimenter. The journey from doing gratitude to being grateful is a gradual one, built on small, consistent actions. Trust the process, be patient with yourself, and know that with every small deposit you make, you're fueling the most powerful engine for growth there is. The old operating system will always be there, tempting you with the familiar comfort of anxiety and the endless pursuit of more. But you've now been given the installation guide for something better. The upgrade is ready. All you have to do is press install. And just like that, you finished the gratitude equation. Take a second to let that sink in. My hope is that you're walking away from this not just with notes and ideas, but with a new lens to see your world through. A new operating system that helps you find the good, build resilience, and connect your happiness directly to your productivity. If this audiobook brought you any value, if it sparked an idea, or if you're feeling inspired to start your own experiment, I would be so grateful if you would support the channel in 3 small ways. First, please smash that like button. It's a huge help and tells YouTube that this audiobook is worth sharing with others. Second, if you want more game-changing, full-length audiobooks just like this one, make sure you subscribe to Jaherica. I post a brand new, incredible audiobook every single Saturday, and you don't want to miss what's coming next.
And of course, hit that notification bell so you're the first to know when it drops. Finally, let's make this a community. Jump down to the comments right now and tell me, what is one small thing you are grateful for today after listening to this book? I'll be reading and replying to as many as I can. Thank you so much for investing your time with me today. I'm Jaharika, and I absolutely cannot wait to see you in the next one this Saturday.